Recently, NVIDIA, 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 NVIDIA. Recently, NVIDIA pulled back the curtain on their latest upscaling tech, DLSS 5. But instead of the usual tech enthusiast applause and silence from the rest of the industry, it was met with a resounding rejection, at least from the online gaming community. For years now, NVIDIA has been iterating on their AI upscaling tech, and for years we've seen how developers use it. It's a performance band-aid. It allows for studios to skip the grueling process of heavy optimization while still delivering peak visuals and frame rates. On one hand, this helps developers hit the sky-high quality standards that consumers demand. On the other, it's not perfect. It's AI, after all. When we talk about frame generation, you'll often hear people refer to it as fake frames. And that's because these aren't actual frames produced by the game or programmed in. These are AI essentially playing a guessing game, predicting what the next frame should look like based on pattern recognition. 1 is followed by 2, 2 is followed by 3, and 3 is followed by 4. But AI struggles with one variable it can't control: the human element. Humans don't always follow patterns. In fact, we tend to break them. We break our games. We look for shortcuts. Think about your favorite screamer. They get distracted by chats. They start running in circles. They ignore the game's instructions and pathing. And then they complain that the game is confusing. While the AI expects the logical next step, the player decides that 1 is actually followed by 5, then 7, then 2. The AI can't account for that chaos. At least, it can't account fast enough. The result? Torn frames, acid popping, and a shimmer that the most locked-in gamer will notice immediately. Until recently, this was a niche complaint for tech nerds. Then came DLSS 5. With DLSS 5, the mask slipped. It wasn't just upscaling anymore. It was generative AI. NVIDIA denied it at first, calling it just a lighting scheme. Then eventually they admitted that they were introducing generative AI elements into the fold. This wasn't just a lighting scheme. The AI was now hallucinating details. Let this be your reminder that companies lie to you. Why does this matter? Because it kills artistic intention. Games don't just happen. They don't just pop up out of nowhere. Every part of it is intentional. Every bird you see, every building, every character, every NPC, they're there because the developers wanted them there. Because the developers said that they need to be there for one reason or another. It was their intention, and they're designed to fit their intention for their game. And AI can't understand that at all. Take the portion of NVIDIA's ad featuring Grace Ashcroft, the new protagonist for Resident Evil 9. She's on her way to investigate a dilapidated hotel where her mother was murdered, which, if you're wondering, is not a spoiler. That was literally in one of the trailers for the game. And side note, what kind of boss sends you to investigate the place where your mother was murdered? Like, bro, back to the main note. She's investigating the place where her mother was murdered, which is obviously traumatic for her. And in the original render, she looks exhausted. She looks frantic. She hasn't taken care of us. She's not taking care of herself properly, which makes sense. But when the AI takes over, trying to fill in the missing details, suddenly she's wearing a full face of makeup. She's slaying it. She's about to girl boss this investigation. Trauma? I barely even know her. That was terrible. The AI doesn't understand context. Doesn't know that a mourning daughter wouldn't try to look like she's ready for a photo shoot. But the AI just wants to make the pixels look pretty. Now I want to be fair and still man this argument. Some might say AI is the only way to save the industry. We're seeing production budgets balloon and production timelines stretch into the decades. We're in a state of production stagnation. It's usually because technical demands have increased. 2010, a character might have 10,000, maybe 20,000 polygons. In 2026, with 4K as the standard, a main character can exceed 500,000 polygons. Polygons are the small shapes that make up bigger shapes, by the way. A circle is just made up of little tiny straight lines. I hate to be the one to break that to you. Every pore, every pebble, every blade of grass has their own polygons, and that requires manual labor. Then there's a scope creep. AAA maps are now 10 times larger than they were a decade ago. But when you double the map size, you don't just double the work, you triple it. You have to ensure that the physics, the weather, the AI systems don't collide and break in that massive space. So developers end up having to spend a lot of time on their engines, which takes years. Or they move to a third-party engine like Unreal or Unity. But that creates its own problems because these are generalized platforms. They have to be able to make any type of game for any type of developer. They're jacks of all trade and masters of none. If you have a specific type of game that you're focused on, you're just not going to get the best out of a third-party platform. And if you do, like we see with many developers moving to Unreal, you run the risk of creating a monopoly. If one company becomes too big, they can make really anti-consumer decisions and you won't have much say in it. I remember in 2023 when Unity, after promising that it would never have a royalty scheme, you just have to pay for the product and be done, they changed their policy into such a half-assed royalty scheme that it could have destroyed many smaller studios. And it didn't help that they wanted to apply this royalty scheme retroactively. Thankfully, people voted with their wallets. Many studios committed to moving to Unreal Engine, and people made it loud enough noise that Unity had to scale back their plans. The CEO even got fired for messing up so badly. And that was when they weren't even the biggest player in the game. What happens when Epic's Unreal Engine gets market dominance? That becomes a problem. So many studios still have to create their own engines. Now, addressing these points, I understand the arguments for AI and fidelity, but I don't buy it for the world build. Gen AI can make a landscape, but it can't make it intentional. Look at Starfield. 1,000 planets, most of them empty, because the worlds were generated. Nothing felt definitive. No place, except for the main cities, had their own identity. We've forgotten that a map doesn't just have to be big, it has to be distinctive. GTA San Andreas has a tiny map by modern standards, but it felt massive because of the atmosphere. When the remake came out in the trilogy, they removed the fog, the tech they used to hide the scale, and the world felt empty. I'm actually fascinated by going back to older games that I played for hours and realizing they had very tiny worlds. That's because they had character. If you have a massive map with nothing in it, the player feels, well, nothing. A small handcrafted map where the locations or characters themselves will always feel greater than the sum of its parts. Well, if not those, how can we bring down the development times of modern video games? If we want to cut the development time without selling the soul of the game to AI, we could learn a thing or two from other industries, specifically modular design. Modular design is a design approach that tries to take complex systems and break them down into smaller and interchangeable parts. This allows them to be used across different projects because the projects are designed to be able to work with each other's parts. The place you see this the most is in cars. Car companies often reuse parts like their platforms, their lights, their seats, their bumpers, across their entire lineup. This allows them to design something once and use it over and over and over again. And the more that they use it, the cheaper it becomes because they paid for it to be designed once. They sell it many more times to you, the public. And it's not just in cars. Movies reuse sets and props all the time. If it's been made, why just put it in the closet and make it again? Bring it out where it can be and let it be used where it can. In many Disney movies from the Silver Age, Disney tried to save money by reusing animation, sometimes even character designs, maybe just changing the color palettes or the outfits on them. Especially in the time of hand-drawn animations where a lot more time and effort had to be put in to make this work. It made perfect sense to reuse what you had, and no one noticed until decades later. In gaming though, reusing assets is frowned upon. But why? Why do we need to redesign a trash can 500 times? Do you really care if a bench in in one game is the same model used in another? If it's the same engine, why shouldn't they reuse skyboxes, trees, or even the brick textures? And sure, they might overdo it. I noticed in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, there was one face that kept on popping up. So maybe you create another face or two. But the point still stands. There's a lot of places that could reuse an asset to save on costs. Background NPCs are in that as well. We can cut budgets and time by focusing the human talent on the things that players actually look at and using a library for the rest. If that's not enough for you, it's important that you know that there are many things in the game development process that just can't be solved by AI. It definitely can't solve the bureaucracy within game dev companies. To create bigger projects, they've had to formalize the studios. They've created leadership structures, corporate ladders, and most importantly to this discussion, corporate approval processes. Today, a creative decision has to climb 10 levels of corporate supervision before it's approved. Then it has to go back down those 10 levels to be implemented. And if anything wants to be changed, back up and then back down.
Lead programmer came back, started yelling at me, saying, if he says he needs 4 weeks, he needs 4 weeks. And I'm like, then I will do it. I'll have it done before lunch. And he said, no, because then people will have to support your code. I'm like, well, let me I'm going to walk you through what I want. And you tell me why this takes 4 weeks. He looked at what I wrote, which was about 10 lines of pseudocode on a whiteboard. And he goes, I'll come back. He came back about an hour later and said, what about 2 weeks? And I said, do I have any options here?
AI can't fix a bloated management structure. It also doesn't solve for the gap left by crunch culture. In the 2000s, developers often lived at their desks. They came in early, they left very late. They came in on weekends. They might not leave at all. And that was just the expectation. Your life was your work. Now, thankfully, after much outcry, most studios have moved away from that and are giving their employees a proper 40-hour work week. But if you move from 100-hour work weeks to 40-hour work weeks, your game will take 2.5 times longer to make. That's just maths. Now, I'm not advocating to go back to crunch culture. I'm saying that this is just the reality of things. And that's something AI can't solve. And Gen AI just isn't good enough. And pair that with what we said before about the intention and human element. I think I'd rather wait 7 years for a game with the human soul than 3 years for generative fever dream. 13 years between GTA 5 and GTA 6 is scary. The gap between Elder Scrolls 5 and Elder Scrolls 6 will be even worse. But those games are legendary because of the people. But those games didn't come out of nowhere. They came from people. And people will always be best. If you have an idea on how to bridge the gap between human creativity and these impossible timelines, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos where we think a little too much about gaming.